లైవ్ లైవ్ ఒకటి ఏంటంటే మనం మాట్లాడి లైవ్ వచ్చి 1 minute 1 minute ఓన్లీ తీసుకుంటాం.
మేడం సెట్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం మేడం. మేడం సెట్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం మేడం.
లైవ్ సార్ ఒకటి ఏంటంటే మీరు ఎవ్వరు కూడా దగ్గర
ఇచ్చినారా? లేదు, నేను సారీ ఏమనుకోద్దు సరే. వాళ్ళ తర్వాత ఎందుకంటే అలా కాదు, మీరు ఏం చేస్తారంటే తీసుకొని వెళ్ళండి, మళ్ళీ తర్వాత వాళ్ళ అదే వాళ్ళు చెప్పిన పని చేయండి. ఏమనుకోద్దు, నిన్ననే ఇవ్వాల్సింది నేను ఏదో చేంజ్ చేశాను, పట్టు తీసుకో. లేదు అయినా నా ధర్మం కదా. అమ్మ ఈ కట్టను కొంచెం ఇట్లానే చేసి మొత్తం అట్లానే ఇటువైపు నుంచి ఇక్కడే కూర్చో ఒక 10 నిమిషాల వరకు ఎవరిని లోపలికి రానిద్దు మీటింగ్ ఉంది ఫుల్ తెరిచి ఓపెన్ చేయి ఓపెన్ ఓపెన్ అది డోర్ దగ్గర అయ్యి ఒక 10 నిమిషాల వరకు కూర్చో ఎందుకంటే మీటింగ్ ఉంది 10 నిమిషాల తర్వాత నేనే కాలింగ్ బెల్ లేదు లేదు నేను 10 minutes తర్వాతనే వెయిట్ చేయమా మీటింగ్ ఉందమ్మా 10 నిమిషాలు కూర్చోమను ఎవరిని రాను Jesus.
Good morning. Welcome to the national level webinar. Emergence of multiculturalism in English language teaching. It's not just about English language teaching, but it's entirely shareable classroom environment, whatever the subject it is. And on this day, English language teaching. It's not just about we are waiting for the keynote speakers and the subject it is from madam. Very beginning, I wish to talk something about. I wish to introduce the topic to the members. When we take culture, according to people age, culture is a type of inheritance. So, how we are inheriting the culture and how that inheritance is reflecting in our day-to-day life. Inheritance and the influence. In between these two, the education comes to play an important role. So today's webinar is especially going to focus on the implication of education and system of teaching on culture and culture's effect on the modalities of teaching. Before going for the full-fledged opening of the session, I humbly invite my colleague Chaitanya Garu, lecturer in English, to introduce our principal madam so that madam can deliver her introductory note on the ongoing seminar.
I have. Good morning. Hello? 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 Good morning. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are audible, madam.
Hello?
I welcome my principal, madam, Dr.BRR Chinnamma to address the gathering and deliver the introductory note.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, madam, you are audible, madam. Yes, you are audible, madam.
Hello?
I welcome my principal, madam, Dr. Chinnamma to address the gathering and deliver the introductory note.
Good morning. I am Dr. Chinnamma, Principal, Dr.BRR Govt. College, Jadcherla. It gives me immense homeliness and great pleasure to grace all your presence in this webinar for the topic, the emergence of multiculturalism in English language teaching. Multiculturalism serves as a powerful tool in enabling students to gain better understanding of both their own culture and the cultures of others, and also develop greater cognitive skills as they learn to engage with critically evaluate the text that they read. And other details will be shared our experts. I want to convey my heartfelt gratitudes to Professor Manoja Garu, HOD of English Department, Palamuru University, Mahabub Nagar, and Dr. Ashok, Assistant Professor of English, Department of Usmania University, Hyderabad, for your deliberation and participation will surely benefit our beloved students and other participants. Thank you so much. Wishing you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam, for giving the gist of the spirit of this webinar, actually. And yeah, culture involves communication. Culture involves language. Without the presence of the language, we would not gather the totality of the culture. And culture also expresses through the symbolism. And culture is nothing but it is an attitude towards life. And culture always strives to create meaning, because meaning is something in which the existence is possible. If the meaning is not there, existence won't become a reality. So in our classroom is actually a microcosm of the macrocosmic nature of the society, macrocosmic nature of the entire nation and the world. So as a teacher, the biggest challenge nowadays we are facing is how to address the issue of multicultural environment in our classroom setup. Because I want to narrate a poem by W.B. Yeats. The title of the poem is Second Coming, The Second Coming. So this is the beginning stanza from the Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all convictions, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. I want to repeat these last two lines again. the best lack all convictions, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. These two lines signify the importance of the best people. The role means the people who have some sort of knowledge about the life, about the culture, about the social existence. So if these people keep quiet, the worst will rule and ruin the entire social fabric. So at this juncture, I want to say that it is the teacher's responsibility. The best means the teacher, because a doctor can cure a patient. A lawyer can make his client win, but a teacher can make entire nation win. A teacher can make entire nation in transform into a phenomenal dimension. So in multicultural setup, because in our society, in belief system, we differ to one another. In our food habits, we differ to one another. In our communication methods, we differ to one another. The nature of communication, the symbols and symbolism we use. So multicultural, understanding the nature, effect, and role of multiculturalism is very much important to manage classroom environment and impart our full-fledged knowledge. We can instill that knowledge in our students. Therefore, I humbly request my colleague B. Madhavi Garu to introduce the first keynote speaker, Her Excellency Professor Dr. Manoja Madam Garu. Now I switch over to Madhavi Garu. Thank you. Thank you, Madhavi. Introduce Manoja Madam to the audience.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Madhavi. I'm working as a guest lecturer in BRR Degree College, Jadcherla. Today, before going to invite our Madam Manoja ma'am, I would like to give a brief introduction about ma'am. So actually, Dr. G. Manoja ma'am is a professor at Palamur University, Department of English, Mahbub Nagar, Telangana. She was born on 13th of October 1961 at Warangal. She can speak both Hindi, English, Telugu as well as Marathi. She has 25 years of teaching experience and 15 years of research experience. She was awarded a Meritorious Teacher Award in the year 2012 by Department of Higher Education, Andhra Pradesh. She also authorized Mooladhwani, Social History of Tribal and Folk Instruments, Pragati Publishers in the year 2019. Her research articles were published in peer-reviewed journals. She has organized about 9 seminars at national level. She has also done the translations from English to Telugu and also Marathi to Telugu. She also worked as an editor for Oriental Manuscripts Library and Research Institute at Hyderabad. Under her guidance, 3 members have awarded PhDs and also there are more 6 members on the process of their awards. She also attended 16 international level seminars, 36 national level seminars, and also 8 state level seminars till date. So, on this day, today, I am very well pleased to invite such a honorable person to our session as a keynote speaker. 1. Dr. G. Manoja ma'am, please welcome ma'am.
Yes, good morning to all. Right, you can hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, madam, we hear you, ma'am.
Yeah, so it is a pleasure to join you all, particularly to talk on a subject like this. When Mr. Murthy approached me with this topic, I really told why this after so many discussions and after so many, because multiculturalism in India follows with multilingualism. So working with variant of languages in India, it and not able to practice them in our classrooms particularly, it is a main constraint of Indian English teachers as such. But anyway, in the beginning only, at the outset, I appreciate BRR Government Degree College Department of English for taking up a good topic, good subject for the seminar. And to begin with, at the outset, just on 21st, we observed the UNESCO's. On 21st of Feb, we observed the International Mother Tongue Day. It is very suitable. First, if I start with this, start with the importance of languages as such, because that is very importantly right. I think uh, I lost connection. Am I?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, it's under streaming.
It is right then. Uh, it is very proper to no, no. It is very proper to read out what the UNO, the United Nations Organization, says about the languages past, because multiculturalism into the classrooms enters through the language. So language in that way, it is it is a phase out, it is an entry threshold to the culture. Without expression through language, we can't even pronounce the word culture as such. So in that way, I'll సర్లే నాది ఉంటే సరిపోద్ది. Oh, okay. Okay. Hello. Hello. Am I audible, sir? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then, as language plays very important role to enter into our not only the classrooms, into the cultures. To enter into the culture, the main component is language. So I think with the knowledge of it or without, I don't know. I never asked Ms. Murthy that at the outset of the International Mother's Day, he has arranged this seminar actually. So I read out what United Nations Language Day, Mother Tongue Language Day would say. Languages are the most powerful instruments of preserving and developing our tangible and developing our intangible heritage. All moves to promote the dissemination of mother tongues will serve not only to encourage linguistic diversity and multilingual education, but also to develop fuller awareness of linguistic and cultural traditions throughout the world and to inspire solidarity based on understanding, tolerance, and dialogue. With this, I would like to I would like to enter into my lecture scheme as such, because in his a very apt and adequate introduction, Mr. Murthy explained how multiculturalism is playing a very important role in global situation now, not only in India, but I want to restrict myself to Indian. Hello. I want to constrain myself to towards India and Indian Indian scenario in this lecture as such. And multiculturalism, as I said earlier, I look to it as a language, as language teachers, all of us, we have to look into it through languages. Languages with their complex implications for identity, communication, social integration, education, and development are of strategic importance for people of not only the countries but whole the planet. Yet, due to globalization process, they are increasingly under threat or disappearing altogether. When languages fade, so does the world's rich tapestry of cultural diversity. If one language dies, let me just to make your a note that if one language dies, one culture is dead. And particularly in Indian context, there are many languages dying each day. Opportunities, traditions, memory, unique modes of thinking and expression, valuable resources for ensuring a better future are also lost with this dying of language and with dying of culture. And here, today, there is growing awareness that languages play a vital role in development, in ensuring cultural diversity and intercultural dialogue, but also in strengthening co- cooperation and
MSc Statistics
attaining.
is there in our college. MSc Statistics ఉందా మేడం మన దగ్గర? కోర్స్ మన
There is some disturbance, overlap of the
దగ్గర
sounds.
మనకు ఒక సీట్ కావాలి.
Yes, could you unmute the speakers over it?
Madam, we have muted, sir. We have muted all of them.
మేడం ఒక
Madam, Manoja madam, please kindly unmute, madam. You have muted, madam. Unmute yourself, madam.
ఇంగ్లీష్
Yes.
Okay, madam. Yeah.
Right. I think I need not to repeat, I believe.
Yeah.
I need not. Yeah. So then also I just go through these things. But with the growing awareness of this multiculturalism into the classrooms, it is this growing awareness that we have to believe that languages play a vital role in development, in assuring cultural diversity and intercultural dialogue. As spoken, they would seem very simple words, but the intercultural dialogue is very important facet in our classrooms as such, but also in strengthening cooperation and attaining quality education for all, in building inclusive knowledge societies and preserving cultural heritage, and in mobilizing not only socio-historical but political will for applying the benefits of science and technology. It would be only possible through the multilingualism and multiculturalism, the benefits of science and technology to sustainable development into the societies particularly. So this very importance of multiculturalism we can see through. And first of all, let's be very empirical. For we English teachers, multiculturalism in classrooms is very different from ELT. ELT for us is only language component. I'm directly coming to our classrooms as such. Then we'd shift the components of multiculturalism in ELT as such in a broader view. For our classrooms, very confined classrooms, we divide language and literature differently. I don't know. When our generation were students, we never had this bifurcation. We never, because language is part of literature and literature is a way with the language. We never had. But nowadays, ELT only speaks of some linguistic theories. So for this seminar, as the uh, as the conveners, organizers of the seminar was telling in the introductory note, English language learning classrooms are very different, as the focus of English language teaching has traditionally been on the target culture of English speaking countries. However, the new status of English as international language, it is, here you say it, lingua franca, or English as international language. So it has led to significant changes in the practice of teaching and learning cultures in ELT. Rather than relying on the paradigm of native speaker competence and target culture, the culture teaching in ELT now aims at developing learners as very variant speakers in a globalized context. Given the need to integrate diverse cultures into the ELT practice as a platform for learners to become a very specific country speakers, like in our case it is Indian speakers, for example. So we have to, as it is a foreign language to us, as it is not a native language to us, it is as a foreign language to us. Learners' attitudes towards this issue are of paramount importance, because our students are, we as teachers, our looking through the language and the native language speakers look out into that is very important, because the paradigm shift as English as international language are as this as this topic of this seminar goes, the emergence of multiculturalism in English language teaching. At a point in the emergence of this new century, English has been recognized as multicultural language. This is another development. English from lingua franca, English from English as international language to English as multicultural language. So this shift is so swift, so drastic, so very fast. A language dies very consistently because political groups stop giving giving awareness to it, and it dies. But growth of a language, shift of a language is very important here in this seminar. Really, I look forward that this shift, particularly when we look at English as a multicultural language. Are we, particularly in India, are we taking it to those levels? Are we English teachers are constraining ourselves to the ELT, means English language teaching, cognitive theory, this theory, that theory, that's it. What are these are the challenges for English language teaching at the outset of multiculturalism, particularly in India. So the learner's perspective on cultural diversity is integrated into the ELT practice. And all these constraints particularly are there. And as we are speaking, as a concept of native speakers competence used to prescribe all aspects of ELT, particularly. One second. Sorry, I'm a bit sick and I have to. Particularly, English teaching was correspondingly constructed on the paradigm of target culture, the associated with language being learned. Here, not only the paradigm, even the multicultural aspect arises here. How that target language also includes target culture. How it is very synonymous. You are not only not only just taking taking a English as a language, but you are unknowingly taking its culture also. Here,
ఈజీ కౌన్సిలింగ్ రేపు లాస్ట్ డేట్ మన ఈషా ఈ అమ్మాయి ఏం చేయాలి
once again, there are much noise. Hello. Hello. Ah. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello. Yes, is it all right?
Yes, ma'am, it's okay.
No, you unmute. Abhinaya, you unmute all of them. It is very much disturbing. I could hear them.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Ashok sir. Ma'am, now it's okay.
Right. And here, talking about these native speakers, native languages, target cultures, and somewhere the South Asian or any other uh, any other speaker for other native speaker learning as English as foreign language. There is a apt quotation by a Philippine poet, Gemino Abad. He wrote, and Bautista was declared this to the English speaking world, that is, the English language is now ours. Ours means the to all others in globalization, whosoever uses it. The English language is now ours. We have colonized it too. it is a small statement like sentence, but it is very much suitable for all of us English teachers. It should not be. When we take up English in our classrooms, it is it is to give up. It is to go through this idea, not give up. I take back. It goes through that idea that English as a language, it might be a foreign language, but when you put your ideas, your concepts, your theories, English as international language, EIL. Previously, in our generation, we used to have ESL, English for specific languages. But as EIL goes now, English as international languages, it should be very much speaking about our own awarenesses, our own problems, our own theories, and our own concepts. English is no more specific to Britain, rather afterwards to America. When we are introducing it at the outset, uh, at the mouth of globalization, when we adopted it, that should be imparted to all other people only. English should be turned as medium of expression only. If remember, we English teachers remember, then our classrooms would be more more scientific and more interactive and more up to the point classrooms. And particularly the emergence of English as a international language or lingua franca, it has challenged the ELT pedagogy because English is used by more non-native English speakers in the expanded circle than native speakers in inner circle. This is very interesting to observe. The number of English speakers is more than the native speakers in England, because English is spoken by many more people in many vast several countries. So the speaking line, let me tell you that all the strength, the number of speaking people would show the liveliness of enliving linguistic fabric. It is when one can the language components, language institutions. When I could not get that word now. It is fine. I'll come to it. Those are recognized by a language are are uh, very much concentrate on the enliving quality of a language. A language will live when un, whenever, until and unless it is spoken. A language is declared a dead language when people stop conversing in that language. For example, our own Sanskrit. So many more critics say that Sanskrit was never a written language or spoken. It was only a bookish language. Actually, it is meant for writing and all. So leaving all those theories and controversies, the language is declared, not in India, but the language is declared a extinguishing language by University of Oxford and other universities in West. only based on speaking numbers of that language, using numbers of that language. Likewise, there are many languages in India, many tribal languages. I constrain myself not to very much go to the tribal languages because there is a list of tribal languages which are going to dead as the as a um, census would say, as the reports would say, that merely a language would die in each day, because the very point to make the languages to stand is at least 10,000 people should speak it. For example, here I want to give the example of the tribes Chenchu just in within Mahbub Nagar district. It is considered to be a primitive one because the language they used to speak is not spoken anymore. So it is a extinguished language. Now any research could not take it out because there is no relics of that language to be. So it happened to some languages. That's why I wanted to read out the UN's quotation in the beginning of this lecture particularly. So English as a international language, as a lingua franca, has challenged the English language teaching pedagogy because English is used by more non-native English speakers in the expanding circle than the native speaker in the inner circle. This is very important for us to remember how we can mold English to our needs, to how we can cater this language, this global language as per our own um, own linguistic and own historical and political colors, and we can and the non-native native speakers norms that previously determined the ELT pedagogy in general and culture teaching in particular are considered inappropriate with the English use in multilingual and multicultural contexts. So there became a constraint of these things in multicultural ways. Therefore, ELT must be in line with the new goal of teaching, which trains learners not to become native speakers, what we do to our students, particularly in multicultural classes. The English language teaching, I underline, should train the learners not to become native speakers, but to use this language as a tool for interaction among many other languages and cultures. First of all, we teachers should be very much accept to be go through with this line. Because most of us, we want to be the babus, as we read in our Indian novels. No problem to speak a language with all its chastity is a good thing, because language capability is very highest form of intelligence quotient. Mastering over 5 to 6 languages is very normal for a normal Indian, for a common normal Indian. So this linguistic quotient in Indian students is much more. You can see a student in our classrooms, particularly in Mahbub Nagar area or Telangana area, they are multilingual. They can speak Telugu, Kannada, Hindi to large extent, of course, English, and as our government policy
Excuse me,
go,
madam.
yeah.
Madam, you have shared screen, madam. Your appearance is not, what I say, fully displayed on the screen.
So I have to stop the share.
Yeah, this one and say what?
Now,
Yeah, now.
right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But I am audible, isn't it?
Yeah. Clearly
Ah,
audible and visible. Madam.
Yeah, I want to be audible more than the visible. Okay, so these things particularly are very important. So when we are living with the three language formula, fine. It is before a student completes 10 plus 2 plus 3 or 4, his minimal knowledge with the three languages, the regional language, the national language Hindi, and the international language in English. So these three languages are very importantly needed for the student in our classroom. So it itself gives gives the importance of the languages in our classrooms. And at the same time, let me tell you, most of our students are very much well versed with their own regional languages, particularly in our classrooms. We can see some seats are reserved to the tribal students. They have their own, because any English written article would not tell us about these facts about our classrooms, because with the three language formula, our students has to face with their regional language also. So it is not only 3 bedded to our students in the classroom, it is 4 to 5 bedded, the multi-layered multicultural and multilinguistic problem in our classrooms. So that is to be very much taken into the note very importantly by our English teachers, by us particularly, because a student, particularly a tribal or a subaltern student in the classroom, the way he uses his own mother tongue, his own regional language. There are many writings. I don't want to take the time in explaining the things, So there is a wide gap coming from regional language to the mother tongue. Because when I was reading out the International Mother Tongue Day thing from UN, a very small excerpt from the thing, they are not saying about the indigenous languages, because we are speaking about multiculturalism in ELT. So these are all the problems for us, because going from these levels, so we can hit the target. So directly when we open as only English as target language, it would be a havoc. It would be a very big thing. So if we go step by step, it would be an easy reach to the students and to the teachers. And this multiculturalism through multilingualism should reach to the point, because I get back to this levels of languages to our students in classrooms. So the regional language, say, are the indigenous language, are the so I'll stick to the indigenous language. The indigenous language at the house level, at the personal level, and regional language at school level, and the national language at college level, and of course the English international language coming to the collegiate levels particularly. How could you expect this multiculturality without making aware the teachers? Particularly, orientations are very much important to the curriculum, the new constructed. I'll discuss them in future lines particularly. So there's not only the government based three three language formula, it is 4 to 5 languages, the how we can take that student to the international language. though it is very important, though we can't do away with that language, how we could be a successful teachers to take our classrooms through these multiculturals, particularly in response to the new status of the English language as a international language in ELT also been subject to change, particularly this paradigm of language pedagogy, which rests in the recognition of linguistic and cultural complexity and transnational flow in both foreign language education and ELT. Corbett, the writer, suggests the intercultural approach for teaching English because it trains learners to be diplomats able to view different cultures from a perspective of informed understanding. Particularly, cultural content in ELT, according to this approach, is no longer confined to the paradigm of target language or culture, and diverse cultures are therefore advocated to replace the dominance of English speaking culture. So here it is a good shift, a good paradigm shift, if we can. I think not even the process has been started in Indian universities and Indian classrooms. If you has made the the professors have if you have made some steps to take English, the Indian variant of English, at stand with the other variants of English like America and Australia as such, but it has to take up many more measures also. So in English speaking, very looking towards the English speaking cultures and English learning cultures, what the multiculturalism to our seminar here is. And to put it simply, English as foreign language learners do not necessarily study British and American cultures in English lessons, which used to be treated as the target lectures. Now we study many more, isn't it? Our syllabuses include many more writings also. Instead, a variety of cultural content from different countries is introduced to learners in this in English teachings they practice in order that they can mediate and negotiate between the different groups. And English as foreign language learners would become intercultural speakers, multicultural speakers, endowed with values such as open-mindedness, curiosity, tolerance, and respect for self and others. In the same vein, the English learners as intercultural speakers with knowledge of one or more cultures and social identities, and they enjoy discovering, maintaining relationships with the people from other backgrounds, although he or she has not been formally trained in that purpose. So before going, just giving this thought, uh, the multiculture uh, multiculturalism as such, what is today's topic. Multiculturalism, our students particularly, I'm not really I'm speaking it for the youngsters, young teachers and the students. Multiculturalism, we have seen it once again only in the in the curriculum of American literature. Most of the students till today, they think that multiculturalism is only related to America. There are students, believe me, but multiculturalism, as we speak in this seminar as such, is speaking about many more groups let me confine myself to all those world groups whosoever speak in English. English as medium of expression is going ahead, English as international language. And particularly, I want to uh, uh, focus on the imbalance between theories and practices, which leads to a raised concern that the actual take-up of an intercultural approach, multicultural approach. I have just chosen this intercultural is in India, we are multicultural at the basic level, not going outside. In India itself, we are multicultural. India has many cultures. For that matter, as Sharmishta said, India had many Indias. The theory has not been taken up very fast, but many diversity. Even though we talk about the unity in diversity, this multicultural India is the best example of multicultural dimensions in our classrooms, because the South Indian classroom and the North Indian classroom, when they come together and a national level platform, that multiculturalism could be very visible. So when I want to focus outside India, I want to refer it as intercultural approach. So intercultural does not mean that within, and it is outside also. Particularly, this is all the word play, we had been playing with the words. Particularly, the main thing is Indian English classrooms have many more challenges, to solve with ourselves. As I was saying, Indian classrooms are, as such, from the beginning, are multicultural. They are not only multicultural, as I said, multilingual. There are multi backgrounds, multi social facts, historical, and the diversity of Indian classrooms is so enormous that we have to balance them with very hard task. The imbalance between theories and practices leads to raise a concern that the actual take-up of a multicultural approach in its application to classroom language learning has been the subject of very little investigation. So here, an old teacher like me, to me, the English language could be acquired as language at any time. Some of my colleagues may hurt by this thing, because language acquisition is so easy for an Indian student, because an an Indian student is open to more than two languages, more than three languages. So English as a foreign language might seem a difficult one, but it is a reachable task for Indian student. But this component of multiculturalism, to put the grain of multiculturalism in our classrooms, is a hard task. And really, I appreciate BRR College Department of English for taking lead in this way. So it is it is, let me put it in that way. We teachers should look at the problems of the pupil student to understand these things. I can narrate the instances of a few of my own classroom, these things. To begin with, to these things. Okay, to begin with, let me tell you a small anecdote within 2 minutes. That when I went to my first interview way back in late 80s, I was, I had a question, none other than the then Home Minister S.B. Chauhan, Shankar Rao Chauhan. As I went for their college for interview, he said, "What is the importance of Shakespeare? Why should he be taught in our classrooms?" I was just giving the answers as an English teacher. Then he burst out and he told that we have good translations of Shakespeare in our own language, for that matter, in all Indian languages. Then, where is the need of Shakespeare to teach in our classrooms? So, spontaneously, I really remember as an English teacher, spontaneously, I answered him because, sir, we felt that Shakespeare should be translated into our languages. That is the same reason Shakespeare should be in our classrooms. Because there, this multiculturalism should be taken to the lines of a universality. The literature, in literature classes particularly, we can combine these cultures. No culture is stands against another culture. So this was, and okay, our discussion went on unlike an interview. So these are the how these universality factors should be made part of our multicultural classrooms. How we can balance those multicultural aspects into our classrooms, into our curriculums is very important. ELT is recommended to start with an inquiry into students' perceptions because learners are placed in the center of the educational process. When we are teaching still, Wordsworth's, Milton's, and Shakespeare's. First of all, it is a responsibility of our teachers to take speak about, to talk about the multicultural aspect, combining with universality of those topics. That was, and particularly how cultures and social backgrounds and historical backgrounds, cultural backgrounds made a difference. Particularly when I enter the tribal indigenous classrooms, particularly, I keep on saying this example. It is very important to share with you all here is the school dropouts in Adilabad district is more than any other district in Telangana because of this embedded language formulas. The three language formula always forgotten the the tri the indigenous local regional languages. That is the reason the dropouts in education are more there in these districts. Particularly it comes to common remote areas also. Even today my research says that the dropouts in schools are a very good example, the necessity of multiculturalistic classrooms in our Indian situation, how it is very important. Particularly in further, I just want to throw light on English is taught mainly in formal settings. What we all do, including myself, we all do. English we taught in formal setting from primary to tertiary education with a limited allocation of time for instruction. Most of the times, our language periods, particularly Telugu periods, are thrown somewhere, considering as non-important. And in +2, we can see what is the fate of English and Telugu and Sanskrit, whatever. So, and those are put, and no student would no student would take languages seriously. They opt for Sanskrit or French because it scores getting them more percentage, as all of you know. And particularly this this disgraceful attitude towards languages harms multiculturalism in our classrooms, and we are very much to regain them. And particularly not only the language classes, even the language components also, how we share in classroom practice. Teachers first priority is develop language skills. Here it is English means it is only skill. I don't know really, as it is a formal lecture. I can't. How can damn it could be a language skill? A language is a threshold of culture. And a skill is an inborn skill. You speak, a skill. You talk, a skill. You eat, of course, a skill. But it is English is n- is English might be a skill, a foreign language, but our own mother tongue is not skill. We earn it. We acquire it with our birth. These language things, particularly in the before COVID, I don't know what is in the COVID situations, the personality developing classes, communication skills. Fine, animals have communication. Language is only the prerogative of human being. So this language skills, as English teachers in our classrooms, we teachers we prioritize with developing language skills and grammar for learners, and particularly the science faculties. Madam, our children don't need any poems or poetry or novel or anything else. Just to teach them some speaking skills. That's it. Without writing, how could you get speaking? Usually in English classrooms, we go LSRW skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing. But in India, as a teacher, as a learner, as we were students, we always wrote it, then read it, right? It is a completely opposite way. First we learned to write it, then to read it, then only speak it, try to speak it, and then to listen it. Still we go with that formula of LSRW only. As a teacher, I taught in my classrooms for years, that knowing very well that in India the process is in reverse. Our Telugu medium students write better English than English medium. There are no very less convents nowadays. Don't use the word convent educated. So English medium educated students, Telugu medium instruction students write good English than them. It is an old teacher's experience. So we are only based on those things only. In an attempt to develop both linguistic and cultural competence in ELT, culture has been integrated integrated into English language instruction, but it is underpinned by two directions. One is dominance of the target language in textbooks inherent in life, institutions and values of English speaking countries. The other is factual representation of local culture in English textbooks, who translate local sources. Similarly, but similarly in in our local universities, with a small this thing, particularly most researchers coming up in language side, that the learning of English at so and so class level, at +2 levels, these researchers are taking up. But I'm very skeptical about what are the inputs or outcomes of those researchers, particularly if multicultural content has a place in these sources, uh, particularly how these all variant things in a jumbled English classroom would come out, particularly how we could come out of those stereotyped classrooms, particularly as a teacher we have to have our own plannings, I believe, particularly when a local regional teacher, instead teacher, I take up a writer. For example, A.K. Ramanujan, when he translated, I don't use the word here, right, where A.K. Ramanujan translated Tolpakiam, or say the anonymous, very oral literature of Tamil, the one of the ancient languages as Telugu, into English. Multiculturalism. One ancient prominent prominent Indic language entering into the other side cultural English language is very important. When Tolpakiam entered, when Sangam literature entered into his poems of war and love, Akam and Puram, particularly, this is the best example where we can stand upon how the local translations could enter into our classrooms as such. So that is because first instance, even I never wanted to take the example of the translation of Barbara's translation of Abhignana Shakuntalam. More than that, the ancient language of South could enter into a multicultural language. It was introduced. Very, very sad to accept the factor that Akam and Puram, the poems of love and war, were first introduced in foreign universities in American and English universities rather than in India. In India, the awareness came very late. Now we introduced them particularly. And going to another facet of this is there are some findings as such with the with the what we say the English as the English language teaching. It is concerned uh, mm, with the learner's positive attitude to diverse cultures, while um, advocating an understanding of multiple cultures as a necessity for teaching and learning culture in the localized context. As a localized context, the participants also acknowledge that the concept of diversity in ELT has to do with their home culture, making the marketing, making it very definite in their in their understanding as such. Because so I made it very clear in the beginning of my lecture here. Language, I take language and culture as synonymous for this lecture purpose. For all those for all those languages entering into the classrooms is many a cultures entering into the entering into the classrooms and into the scenario. The many of our students, they have not favored the English language practice at secondary and tertiary education. We are very known. Most of the students say that they fail only in English. They fare very well with all other subjects, but they fail in English. However, the emergence of English as international language and the spread of globalization helped them find it necessary to study different cultural contexts. And particularly in India and other Indic culture nations as Singapore and all others, and both English and an official language, as we are talking as Hindi at the same time. Teaching and learning cultures of these countries is essential. And particularly as compared to their other counterparts, Indian students have novel ideas due to their cooperation with foreign language speakers through the exchange programs. Also, particularly in our language classes, we talk about many things about the postures and about conversation levels. Particularly in the beginning, I think the new teachers and students, they are not knowing about them but in the beginnings, particularly there used to be conversational passages, that how to go to a market vendor and have a conversation with them. We used to have in our practice component, reading component, questioning and all. We used to have in our language practice curriculum. I'm talking about some 10 years ago and all. So most of the students had to have the question that we can go to a bank or to a post office and can converse in English, but how can we go to a market vendor and converse in English? That's a valid question, the very valid question. So afterwards, they were made, they were exchanged with some other passages and all. But even the evolution of English teacher throughout these years and coming to a multicultural thinking into our classrooms is a long journey. It was not easy to a English teacher anytime as such. And there would be in a part of personality development and all to the engineering students. Particularly, this is also very strange aspect here. All the at plus two level, we hindered the language growth of a student after 10th, and all of a sudden when they come to the uh, +4 engineering or the technical levels, when they lack communication, they added those classes at the particularly Aditya Birla Commission saying about having the courses for the engineers in their own way. All of them, they are all the politics. Language is full of politics. So all those things, and once again, English students who are English are the particularly English students, they are curbed with the communication skills at +2 level, and they are thumped with the communication at +4 levels. And those are also there. We are supposed to teach them the group discussions, that sitting postures, and that too not very much aware to the Indian culture background. Not it is a big word, cultural background, with the Indian habitats, Indian habits. Particularly, they usually, I keep telling in my classrooms that way. So in, there is no need to speak all these things in our English syllabus, English curriculum. But unfortunately, we speak about these things in our curriculums, leaving aside many more important things. Padma, many more important things, because these things are very very irritating actually. Because we are what we expect for our curricula, what we expect our teacher, our students should reach out. And in this baffle particularly, we talk about the postures, we talk about the non-verbal communications, we talk about the confidence. Is this supposed to be in only in English? Is it not to a, a personality development should not be the language component, isn't it? So these things should be taken into consideration, because they talk about particularly girls could not cross the legs. I am not getting into the feminism here, but because the Western wear is scarce, they should not cross in a formal meetings. But it is not the case with the Indian girls. I'm not talking about the urban strata, and and that should not be. A teacher should particularly update himself with all these things in our classrooms. Uh, and and I'll just want to focus upon the local cultural English textbooks to be introduced first of all. To in this way, we have introduced way back the Indian writings in English, and particularly writers like Amitav Ghosh and writers like Arundhati Roy. Okay, they might be labeled as pan-Indian writers. They are making something, particularly with the new edition, Arvind Adiga. They are making their impact entering into the English textbooks as to the things, and if particularly uh, the one good thing is we teachers, as we were talking about the our classrooms, English teachers should take care about learners' interests. Sometimes we should let the students to choose the topics they like. Of course, this is a very good this thing, but unfortunately it is not yet introduced in Indian universities. So we have restricted ourselves to giving them as assignments, as projects as such. And particularly to help out ourselves teachers, we should define a role, a innovative role, uh, um, in in English language class, addressing issues to date, including diverse cultures, multicultural competence, and interculturality, etc. Here, the role of teachers must be critical for change. It is a very rope walk for the teachers. Learners expect to engage in critical thinking, progressive ideas, and values in the pedagogy. However, teachers are not well prepared. And not only well prepared, teachers are tied tied with their mental capabilities, tied with the rules and regulations. The teachers are tied up with and not well prepared, and they do not have the experience to meet with the learner's needs and act as an agent of change. If a teacher wants to be an agent of change, he or she should equip oneself with more socio-historical and political changes than can be an English teacher could stand effectively in a classroom in this multicultural scenario. Living in the era of technology and media, students find it hard to accept that their teachers lag behind themselves in terms of inquiry into cultures, because uh, students also download the same things we teachers download naturally. How effective could we be? So, and therefore, foremost to change teachers' beliefs and practices of culture teaching in accordance with the new multicultural pedagogy and reconceptualized paradigm of ELT. In this respect, teachers' role is to be very important and to provide comprehensive information or bring the foreign society into the classroom for learners to observe and experience, but to develop in students the competence that will make them realize their own cultural values, beliefs, and behaviors, and investigate for themselves the otherness, what is different to their norm. So when we teach a foreign language, when we teach a foreign culture to our students, it is our responsibility to confluent, amalgamate that culture with our culture. So there may be variants, as we were speaking of the variant shades of uh, variant shades of India. It is very important to remember that it is a very different task for English teachers as such. It is language or literature. All here ELT is it is as in the beginning I told you, it is English language and literature as put as English language teachers. It is our challenge nowadays to teach in a multicultural panorama and multicultural situations. It is the theory based knowledge. Now I come to the theory based ones to receive it, and particularly and let me ask you, what is the time given to me? Hello?
Actually, what I say, from
One.
1 p.m. to 2 p.m. lunch break, madam.
Okay,
So
I'll
after lunch
finish
break,
it.
you can.
Yeah, I'll finish it. Now I'll just get into. I was speaking about the language and other developments, communications, personalities. Now I come to the literature classes as such, with the multicultural ways and all. Uh, and as Said says, it is very important to have this concept of Edward Said. He says literary texts of empire, that is British, um, uh, literary texts of empire and its others, that is we with all other colonized states as such, and others are a specific set of rich cultural documents in which the interaction between Western countries on the one hand and the imperialized world on another is animated, informed, made explicit as an experience for both sides of encounter. So this is very important. Actually, as I remember in Telangana, these issues are not at all been focused in our conventional universities as such. Once or twice, I remember, University of Hyderabad have focused on these things, that how to formulate methodologies for Indian theory. By Indian theories, we have confined and constructed ourselves to only the Sanskrit-based theories. Now, we only remember all those Sanskrit, Abhinavagupta, Dhvani, and all. Uh, Beside these theories, in connection with these theories, India has propounded theories. We have subaltern theory, particularly when we have very uh, very dominant theories in these years we have come up with. And this is while teaching the theory based knowledges, we are very importantly, particularly when teaching post colonialism, as multiculturalism is a synonymic word with post-colonialism, we can go with all those new criticisms and reader response theories, the very in a ways opposite theories, when we are teaching students in the color of English with a target language. At the same time, we can equip ourselves with the theories in our own works here that would play as a multicultural effective classroom. It is my personal experience. These theories would be enjoyed by the students, particularly reader response. What would be the what would be the relation of a author when he completes it with his work? Reader response theory says that it would belong to the reader, no more to the writer. A writer should cut that umbilical cord of that relation of a writer creator uh, to a work, to a creation. And it should, when he cuts this umbilical cord, when he is not at all possessive of his own work, of own his creation, it belongs to the readers. This theory, it should be made it clear to your students with your Indian examples, so much so that the two cultures could be amalgamated in your own classroom. Because we very specifically say, uh, as leaves come to the tree, as Keats said. So all these things, they are in in the base languages, particularly as Ramanujan says with the Tamil languages. They are there. All the reader response theories, all new criticisms, they are there. Particularly new criticism, it is practiced in our writings, particularly in regional writings, very much. And for this, we invite, as English teachers, other cultural knowledges with all respect, and with all knowledge. The new cross-cultural criticism has emerged with these values of East and West and necessity of learning, particularly particularly here. I want to just fleetingly give the example of Edward uh, Edward, no, not Edward, Foster, E.M. Foster, Edward Morgan Foster, particularly his famous novel Passage to India, as the very very speaking about the eastern western encounter. That should be the very good example, particularly. And even when we speak about the race, very um, bubbling word situation in our classrooms, particularly where it is very much race is very much persistent, yet implicit presence in white writings. If you see, race is a persistent component, but implicit, with implicit presence. When you read in black writings, say Chinu HB or Twang, anybody, it is in a overt problem. It 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 differences arise when an African writes, race is different. When a white man writes, race is different. And when it comes to Indian classrooms, it is totally different, because here the problem of casteism we face here is totally different from that of race. And particularly these things, like reading the text, reading between the lines, reading beyond the lines, the importantly, as we say in the classroom, text within text, text upon the text, text against text. These things should be made easy to the students in the classrooms, because it is very important for them to understand these things in their classrooms before they are drawn away from political misconceptualized ideas. They should have they should have the proper understanding of these theories in the classrooms only. This as Eurocentric and post colonial expressions would be in this multicultural scenario would be given a newly acquired skill, a new kind of shade which helps the students, and particularly these social constructions should be spoken very overtly, very openly in our classrooms, particularly in our English classrooms. uh, I don't prefer my student to be passive in the classroom, because these things are the social constructions, how they were made. Nowadays we are having very really education is on crossroads now in India. We have many divergent pulls towards us and students. This multiculturalism at least should bring together all these intellectual components, intellectual quotients to one thread. The identities, particularly the heterogeneity of discourses. We have sit here to discuss about multiculturalness, but ended with talking about the very heterogeneous identities within our societies. Leave alone about the outside India and other English these things. These social constructions should be addressed, and particularly this in India, an English teacher should address to the problem of collective cultures. Collective culture do not go outside India, but it could be only be applicated in India, and this collective culture is important for us. And here the okay, the native speakers also, uh, uh, when the native speakers tendencies are shown within a black writing, the dimension of English teacher in the classroom should be of the third dimension, the third cultural point of view. Say if you are for example only, I'm just taking the example of things fall apart. Things fall apart as our spark notes, all other literature, all other reviews, and all other uh, all discussion over that would be white based, multicultural, white based. I'm talking here. And in Indian classroom, in the colored classroom, in the brown classroom, it should be given all put together a third dimension, the native black dimension, the white critical dimension, the white critics dimension, and the third our own colored brown Indian dimension. Otherwise the syllabuses are not very useful in our classrooms. It is called a dialogical curriculum. Particularly this kind of dialogical teaching is also very much important in our classrooms, so that students gain control and real understanding, not only understanding, and even the fluency all over the language. Here I want to just remember the Polish writer Joseph Conrad. Joseph Conrad was a Polish and did not know how to write and read English until he was 19. When he was 19, he started learning English, and he was one of the best English writers, best English multiculturalist writers, where he could play with the native speakers' confidence of his foreign language acquisition, which put particularly Heart of Darkness. I really suggest each and every literature student, not even any other human being, to read it. So it is the best example of a native speaker. It is best example of every possible language acquisitions and post-colonial aspects and multiculturalism, everything. So this is the way the classrooms should be arranged, and particularly when it comes to grammar. This is the last important point, and I would conclude the language part. Particularly, I remember here way back in late 80s or 90s, when I was a student just doing my my diploma in English language teaching. Professor Sri Raman it was my teacher at the time, and he used to make one sentence. Let's our Indian teachers, let us Indian teachers, we make the lethargic, boring, and difficult grammar more glamorous grammar. So that is the way, because most of the English classrooms particularly are very much not very at ease with the grammar, and particularly those grammar lessons must give must be given a touch of a local regional touch, the Indian touch. I don't mean that by local regional you translate grammar. No, anytime grammars could not be translated, we must know that, because we can only give the usually I give even in Indian languages also, Indian indigenous languages, so they follow they follow the English like alphabetic structure. uh, in in English phonetics, we move from diphthongs to the vowels to the diphthongs, then to consonants. Most of the indigenous languages also, they move from vowels to diphthongs, that yawa, the semivowels. In Indian indigenous languages particularly, we find most of we English teachers, we do not take these aspects into our classrooms. This is very important for us to take these issues, these very rich components, to make our classrooms most multicultural. So most of the indigenous languages, for example, Gond, so I can tell it very confidently that their alphabetic structure is so that it would the vowels would end with the diphthongs, semivowels, and then travel into the consonants. These aspects are embedded in our own languages, making grammar structures much easier as such. So these things are particularly very important to introduce our classrooms. The teacher should encourage the students to explore the impacts of these things in context of interweaving the two events of the lexicogrammatical system. Particularly, these things would make them uh, the multiculturalism in these ways. Papa Neil. The multiculturalism in English language teaching and learning should focus on the ideological impact of multiculturalism. The pivotal issue is to understand, appreciate, and to reconstruct the power or knowledge in prevailing discourses and social identities. So this is very important in our classrooms, and particularly I want to conclude conclude the things here, that the there are three elements particularly for our English classes, for international and intercultural, multicultural understanding and communication, that we should know and explain our own culture. Coming to India, there are many halves that either mainstream culture of India is our culture, or the subord or the subordinate culture is our culture. Here, I can I can give the instance of Gayatri Spivak's recent writing, "The New Subaltern: The Silent Interview." All of us, we know that her "Can the Subaltern Speak" is a table turning essay, when Indian are the world over subalterns are very much jerked with this essay. And now her recent essay, "The New Subaltern and the Silent Interview," is the one thing that at the same time you can have a demarcation in between the mainstream cultures and the subaltern cultures as such. It is very important to Indian teachers in our classrooms, Indian English teachers, to explain and to know about, before explaining to students or to the intelligentsia, it is to know ourselves, and then secondly, to understand other culture. The first criteria is not having any psychological barriers or the very biased outlook. It is hard to tell, very easy to tell, hard to work out. But when you are propounding theories, because our theories were neglected, because most of the groups here are are halved in two streams. So understanding of other culture is very important to multiculturalism. Not understanding though maybe it the Western culture, maybe our own culture, maybe the mainstream culture in our own society. Understanding the cultures is important, and explaining the cultures, and of course teaching English as an international language through this understanding of cultures. It is like the circles you make. It is understanding the culture is main component, and particularly the, uh, this is very basis of English becoming a multicultural language. With this practice in our classrooms, we can make it. And each variety developing its own linguistic and cultural features, or for some peoples, it is identity. I knowingly told peoples, because peoples. English is the language to express ourselves, our own culture, not to imitate others. Not it is not to imitate anyway, because here I want to give the example of Amitav Ghosh. In 2 to 3 of his novels, he writes about the famous oral narrative Born Baby. It is a Bengal oral narrative, and he mentions it. He never changes, imitates. He gives his character as they are. And we English teachers in the room of our English classroom should accept a shift from English to Englishes. If we have and English from the language user's point of view is also an important one. And particularly here, to to conclude, it is to recognize an awareness of issues related to world Englishes, and in relation to the English language teaching, in particular with our Indian classrooms. Indian Englishes, we know all of us, the Australian, American, Pan Indian, Asian, whatnot Englishes. acknowledging a broader appreciating of non-standard varieties of English and other world varieties of English. In the process of my lecture, somewhere I mentioned, I believe, that IFLU, English University for English and Foreign Language University, way back a decade ago, started for the English variant of pronunciation to bring it in India. And these world languages, world Englishes should be taken, and it is, if we read as we read in the classrooms received pronunciation, uh, all of us, we teach in our curricula also that southern received pronunciation is not being recognized as standard even in England now. Even in England, the very other variants also taken into the consideration. The colonial language, as we understood still, but it is not. It should be see through the post-independent Indian language. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden English as a international language would turn as multicultural language. English as spoken by many other variant of people, it might not get so soon as multicultural language. When it incorporates that multiculturalness in it, then only it should come. As long as English is referred with the white skinned people, it could not get that idea of multicultural language as such. And one another thing I want to make it clear is to understand the role of different critical traditions in shaping literary history, particularly as we were speaking about Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti's writings in this way. It could be making English as multicultural language. The range of literatures in English, the dominant literatures, the subaltern literatures should be received with same respect. Underline, received with same respect is very important. The regional and global varieties should also be received in English, in this language. Then English would be turned into a multicultural language, so making very easy to all of us to combat to come uh, closer identities with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you very much. I wish to give some sort of summarization of the talk delivered by Honorable Madam. Madam said that when we say what happens if one language dies. When a language dies, it's not just about the death of a few words or a few sentences, but when a language dies, ultimately a total culture dies. That leads to the extinction of culture. So it is the responsibility of everybody, particularly teachers, so that we can preserve our. Madam, actually, madam.
Yes.
Yeah, the screen is totally what is somewhat.
What I should do?
Madam, share screen change.
Okay, I'm looking at it. Okay, you can continue, sir. I'm coming.
Yes. Yeah. So it is our responsibility. And it says that what I say, English as a multinational and multicultural language, because when a language emerges as a global language, and when it is spoken by each and everyone across the globe, then it would not be limited to a certain geographical space or temporal space. So English is the language of each and every one of us. And because English language, when when I speak Tamil language, a Tamilian cannot say that it is Tamil language. As a Telugu man, you cannot speak Tamil language. But because when we express our own ideas, according to Manoja Madam, when we express our own ideas and problems in a language, that language becomes part of us. And what I say, when we stop to use particular language, that language dies out. So with the death of the language, a culture gets extinct. So Madam says that when at least 10,000 people speak a language, we can consider it as a language. And Madam comes and say shed light on American literature. Many of us, even in our classroom environment, we think that multiculturalism means it is the culture of America, because in America we can see a big fight between white and black, and we generally think that a culture does mean it refers to only skin color. But Madam says that we have to stop thinking that multiculturalism is only referring to American literature, because wherever language is used, wherever multiple languages are used, there multiple cultures would be at play. And as a teacher, we have to respect and we have to recognize the importance of the role of the multiple languages in our classroom and the presence of multiple cultures in our classroom. And Madam distinguished between language acquisition and language learning. Language acquisition is pretty natural as it comes with our mother tongue. Language learning implies some sort of effort from the side of the teacher and from the side of the student. So language acquisition, which is a natural process, shall be promulgated, shall be made a norm in our classroom environment. If we go for artificial measures, that will become some sort of difficult to acquire that second language. And next thing is multiculturalism and universality. Madam focused on merging of 3 stages. Here I want to refer Raymond Williams. Raymond Williams, in his key terms, says that in his Marxism and literature in key terms. So he says that if you take culture at any given point of time, cultural scenario exists in 3 stages. One is emergent culture, second one is dominant culture, and third one is residual culture. So Madam said that we have to merge these 3 aspects of the cultures present in our classroom. Because when we look at residual culture, that residual culture would be, what I say, in a feeble manner. It would be existing, but it would be in feeble and weak manner. We may not identify the factors of that residual culture in our classroom. But as the teacher responsibility implies, we even need to recognize that the factors of residual culture which are present, which present themselves in our classroom environment. And then, as a next point, Madam said that in Adilabad and Khammam, so dropout rate is, what I say, when it is compared to other districts, dropout rate is higher. Because Madam said that that is the tussle between indigenous culture and the language which we teach in our classrooms. Because when indigenous language is, if it is not incorporated in our classroom teaching, then we can see a student feeling the classroom environment as if it is an alien classroom, not as if it does not belong to him. So that belongingness, when indigenous elements are incorporated in classroom teaching, that belongingness, the sense of belongingness would be developed in students. And next, Madam wonderfully said that, I quote Madam's speech, she says that language is the threshold of the culture. Language is the threshold of the culture. And she lamented that even what I say, skill and language both are amalgamated. Skill is something what we can acquire by doing something, and language is a natural process which develops in us. And there is a theory called LAD, language acquisition device also. So by constant exposure to a particular language, target language, so with the help of natural process, that language acquisition device would be activated and the student would be what is acclimatized to the new language. And Madam said that mother tongue is not a skill. It is the life process. The very existence of an individual is entwined with mother tongue. Last Saturday also we celebrated Mother Tongue's Day. So that highlights how important one's mother tongue is. As language speakers, particularly English language speakers, English language teachers, we must understand one thing, that without giving importance to mother tongue, we cannot justify the validity of the language which we are teaching to our students. So that is very much important. And next thing is, what I say, Madam lamented that many students are failing in English. They are, what I say, getting good marks, they are getting distinctions in other subjects. But when it comes to English, we can see higher, failure rate, high failure rates. The reason is the methodology which we follow still focuses on teacher-centric approach. Whereas in language classroom, a teacher shall follow student-centric methodology. And when we want to follow student-centric methodology, Manoja Madam highlighted that we have to understand the cultural bearings from which a student is attending the class. Without understanding the cultural aspects of our students, without understanding the food habits, without understanding the significance of dress codes, without understanding his day-to-day existence, we can't do complete justice to our teaching. And Madam, what I say, quote said that what I say, language is full of politics. Yes, we all agree, Madam. Language is indeed full of politics. Many people, even in political arena, political scenario, they say that what I say, mother tongue is important. We have to teach our students our mother tongue, and English is not our language. English is something foreign language. We have to respect our language. But we can see those speakers themselves go for what I say, various types of education which is available in English language. At this juncture, we have to understand that English is not the language of a Westerner. English has become a global language. English is yours language, English is ours language. When we started to communicate our sensibilities through the help of a language, that language becomes ours. It has become our property. So that is the what I say, beauty of the language. And Madam said that actually Madam expressed her anguish over the statement that nowadays personality development and personality development is totally made a mixture, like personality development means teaching English language. So Madam says that language is the tool of expression, and personality is, it may be part, language may be part of the personality, but personality bears many other important characteristics. So a language teacher, it is not mandatory that an English language teacher shall impart total personality skills in the students. It is not possible, because developing personality in a student is a multifaceted task. And by imbibing the taste to learn English language, we can develop an important aspect of the personality, that is communication. So if a student becomes able to communicate his thoughts, his emotions, his feelings in a profound manner, that language will become a tool to express his personality. So it's a beautiful thing, madam. Next, madam madam stated that amalgamation. Madam stated directly that as a language teacher, we have to amalgamate important factors of various cultures which are present in our classroom. Because madam stated that American classroom may be singular, European classroom may be a unitary, but when it comes to Indian classroom, it never can be a singular phenomena. Divergent cultures exist in our classroom in the form of students. So when we see a student, we not only look at him physically, but we have to see of his culture. We have to look at his culture. We have to go through the factors of his culture. Then only we can justify our teaching. And madam focused on various wonderful critical theories like new criticism, new historicism, and madam stated that new historicism is totally opposite of new criticism. Madam is absolutely right, and it is very informative, madam. And because new criticism focuses on the text only. New criticism shuns, avoids any interference of context. Whereas new historicism says that when we need to understand a text, we have to focus on the entire context in which it is created. Because by avoiding the factors of context, we cannot justify the content of the topic which we are dealing with. Wonderful, madam. And madam says that when I say race, Manuja madam said that when African or white men or American classroom, when we deal with those things, that is race. But when we come towards Indian classroom, that is caste. That is caste. Madam said that that is there, it is race, here it is caste. So intricacies of caste system we need to understand, because even now, even in the digital era, digital age, caste is still playing an important role in many decisive factors. Even it is at a legislative level, even it is at democratic level, even it is academic levels. So as a teacher, we need to understand the sensibilities which are attached to caste system. And madam said that text upon the text, test against the text. Yes, madam, when a writer writes something, he is no more. Because madam said that, Manoja madam said that, according to reader response theory and according to deconstruction, when something is written, that text becomes the property of the reader. Because reader supplies meaning to it. When multiple readers are present, multiple meanings are present. Then the question arises, which meaning is superior or which meaning is considerable? So in a democratic way, we have to say that all inferences, multiplicity of the meanings can be respected. Because we can't see one culture as we cannot privilege one culture over another culture. This canonicity of the text, privileging the culture, shall be avoided in classroom environment, that madam wanted to convey directly. Thank you very much, madam. It's a wonderful exposition given by Manoja madam. And madam said that education is at crossroads in India now. It's a beautiful comment. Yes, indeed, madam. Education is what I say, because when multiple elements are entering into the field of elements, field of education, selfish attitude also go along with it, because self-centeredness is actually, it is finding its expression in education system. So as a teacher, we have to identify those factors also, because teacher shall become a policeman. Teacher must become a detective. He must become a Suryat. Because if you become a detective, you can identify these type of what I say disturbing elements in our classroom environment. And next thing, what I say, madam highlighted that heterogeneity. Yes, heterogeneity. Heterogeneous nature of our classroom, we have to respect and we have to identify. Because no language is superior to no other language, no culture is superior to no other culture, and no caste is superior to no other caste. No, what I say, individual experience is superior to another individual's experience. But at the same time, we have to respect, we have to give due reverence to all these multiplicities which are present. And madam said that Joseph Conrad, he is the writer of The Heart of Darkness. Yeah, he is the important figure in what I say multiculturalism. And yeah, it is a quite read-worthy book, that Heart of Darkness. Thank you, madam. We definitely go through the entirety of that book. And madam said that when I said difficult grammar, and she raised a question that why shall we make grammar as a boring topic? When we go into a classroom and disclose to our students that today's topic is going to be grammar, they may say, oh, the reason is teaching grammar has become a redundant, a old-fashioned one. Madam, what I say, highlighted the need that grammar must be glamorized. Because, you know, Bollywood, Tollywood, where the glamour is ruling the roost. So why shall not we incorporate those glamorized elements in our teaching grammar? It does not mean we shall bring what I say Bollywood stars or Hollywood stars, but a teacher shall become a star. So that madam wanted to convey. Yeah. Next, what I say, art of writing, dictionary, that is lexicography. Yeah, madam actually wanted to say that local words shall also find their expression in English language, because translation kills the essence of the language, essence of the word. Many words are there, they cannot be translated. So that's why transliterature comes into play. So madam says that local expressions can also be used in tandem with the English vocabulary while explaining the topics which are at our hand. And madam, what I say, quoted, can the subaltern speak? Yes. And Gayatri Chakrabarti Spivak and Professor Manoja madam, both say that, yes, subaltern can speak. And English language is the main weapon for the subaltern to speak. And if they want their voice to be heard on global arena, English language is the, what I say, main weapon and main tool. Thank you very much, madam. And madam, what I say, wonderfully said that understand the culture. I wrote it in capital letters, madam. You said that understand the culture. Yes, this is the key term for a teacher to be equipped with the sufficient knowledge of the context in which we are teaching, because culture is the context and we have to understand that culture. And madam threw some light on imitation. Madam directly said imitation is not required. Madam, I remember what I say, mimicking men, Homi K. Baba. Yeah, mimicking men. Homi K. Baba lamented throughout his life that we shall not become mimicking men. In culture, we mimic. In syllabus we mimic. In academics we mimic. Even in food, style of eating food, style of culinary arts, we are mimicking Western culture. So Madam said that instead of imitation, we have to take proactive steps towards constructing creative thoughts or creative methodologies in our classroom teaching. And Madam said that received pronunciation RP. Even in England, RP is not considered as a standard pronunciation. Even if you are a PhD holder, even if you have 20 years of teaching subject, if you pronounce a word in your with the in the sense of your native emotion, or we can say mother tongue influence, MTI, immediately people will say that, oh, even he could not pronounce that word in a particular manner in received pronunciation, so he might be what that person might be. So that culture shall go off. That culture shall become zero, because received pronunciation is the term which has already gone. Now the pronunciation means if your speech is the listener, if the listener can understand you, then that is okay. And when it comes to India, Kerala English is different, Bengali English pronunciation is different, North Indian pronunciation different. If you go to Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, they won't say victory, they say victory. So there are so many examples are like that. So we have to recognize the variety, because even in our food, we like chutney, we like perugu, we like so many dishes. So we have to enjoy the variety. At the same time, we have to see that whatever language we are using, that should be understood by each and everyone. And Madam said that, all shall be, all cultures shall be. I came to my end of my summarization. Madam said that all cultures shall be received with same respect. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. And I invite my colleague. I invite my colleague Abhinaya Madam Garu to propose vote of thanks for Manoj.
Morning. On behalf of Govt.College Jadcherla and English department, I, L. Abhinaya, feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to thank our eminent speaker, Dr. G. Manoja ma'am, professor at Parallel University, to spare the time from her busy schedule to grace this webinar with her extremely relevant address on the today's topic, emergence of multiculturalism in English language teaching. The session was brief. Thank you, ma'am, for being so patient. It means us a lot. Once again, I'm sharing your experiences and views on the topic. Just to learn a lot, ma'am. So much, ma'am.
Yeah, all of you, once again, I want to say that once again, we are going to assemble the audience. I request you all, we are going to assemble once again sharply at 2:10 p.m. 2:10 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you.